Welcome to Easy Email Marketing. I'm your host, Yael Keown, mum, FIFO wife, MBA, coffee lover, survivor superfan, and creator of the email experience. In Easy Email Marketing, you'll benefit from my nearly 20 years experience, where I'll be teaching you all the tips, tricks, and insider info on how to create feel-good, non-spammy experiences for your subscribers. Let's get stuck in. Welcome back to Easy Email Marketing. I'm your host, Yael Keown, and at the time of recording, we are in December again. And everyone's attention is turning towards planning for next year, or will be very soon. And I find there are typically two types of planners out there. One is those who love this time of year and want to map out every detail. So I'm talking getting the different coloured pens or using different categories and coloured cells in Excel, and they want to craft this picture perfect calendar. You know, you get that huge dopamine rush as if you have completed the plan, and you get so overly optimistic and so creative and get all the ideas and just really enjoy that process. But then it gets to February and you've barely followed through on everything, but no fear, you can go ahead and go through another planning session and get everything set up. Confession, this is me, and I can still have a tendency to go down this path. So no shame if you identify with that. Or approach number two is those who have their head in the sand. Or perhaps they are recovering planners who used to do the above and have just become so jaded to the process, they're just like, you know what, I'm just going to wing it. I'm not going to waste my time doing all of that because I know it's just going to change anyway. Neither is a good approach, surprisingly. Instead, with email marketing and pretty much all business, marketing, life planning, I believe in a more middle ground. This is about taking the time to identify gaps, opportunities, ideas, and priorities and putting it into a big picture, but still leaving time for magic and for life because we know things happen. If you don't set your goals, you will just be doing things for the sake of doing them. If you don't identify gaps, then you could be putting a lot of time and effort into one area that won't produce any results just because you didn't set up that automation right. Or if you don't identify opportunities, you may miss out on those quick sales because you might not be leveraging that great blog post that is all of a sudden getting SEO traffic because you don't have a lead magnet on it. If you don't have a go-to list of ideas, you'll just be staring at blank screens, procrastinating, writing those emails, and then finding you wrote your next sales push and you haven't nurtured your list in advance at all, and things flop a little bit. And of course, if you don't set priorities, you will be easily distracted by all those shiny objects and find yourself in this exact same position next year. We need that middle ground. We need to have a different approach to planning. So here is mine. First, I love to have a big picture plan for the year. So I still get to have that creative time where I sit down, go for a day and get those colored pens out and, feed that part of me that loves that planning. But I try not to go too detailed. I like to have a big picture plan for the year, and that's where I'll get stuck into in the do's and don'ts in a moment. Next, I like to look at each quarter. And that's when I lock in specifically what sales and offers I'm going to put in place, what themes and topics I want to work with, and perhaps what projects should be a priority. Plus, at this stage, as well as the previous one, I review my numbers. I'm constantly reviewing my numbers at every single step. Maybe not every single number, but looking at the key ones, because this is what's going to identify those gaps and those opportunities and know where we should invest our all-important time. And then the third layer is at each month, that's when I get specific with exactly like what email topics, etc. that I'm going to work on, when I'm going to do it. So I put it in my calendar. I'm going to work on writing my emails then. I'm going to work on this project or this specific automation then, and I do this tied in with the rest of my monthly planning. So what I'm going to work on with clients, what other calls I've got, all of that, that's when I map out and get my specific month in place. So start big picture with a plan for the year. At each quarter, I lock in, the offers, the themes, and the projects. And then at each month, that's when I get specific about exactly what emails and projects and when I'm working on things. But being the time of year as it is, let's have a look at that first step, the big picture, and my top do's and don'ts when you are going through this planning process. So the first don't is don't start from scratch. The temptation is to go ahead and think about creating all new content and come up with fresh ideas, but you do not have to. Please do use what works. Have a look at your numbers. Your numbers are the guide. What is most popular? Look at this data. Look across your emails. Look across your blogs, your social posts, your Pinterest, whatever it is that you have out there. What is most popular? What are most people looking at? Because that should be a hint as to what people want more of, or if you can use it again. What topics or general themes or styles of content seem to resonate? So it might not be exactly the topic, but it might be like, oh, they love it when I have a more letter-based connection style email versus something that's really how to top tips. It totally depends on your audience. Both are great types of content, but you want to work with what your audience already loves. Also, ask yourself, what are the basics? What are the essentials that every subscriber needs to know? Now, you may feel like you talk about this stuff all the time. You may already have this great FAQs page on your website or dedicated pages on your website to these topics. For e-commerce, this could be about sizing or making the right choice. For services, it could be about your process or the big why behind what you do. Some will not have heard it before because they might be new to your list, or some might need to hear it again, and sometimes we need to hear it over and over and over. Maybe we weren't in a place to hear it before, or maybe we just need those reminders. So ask yourself, what are the basics, and are there ways you should be weaving this in? So don't start from scratch, and do use what works. Next, don't set a strict schedule. So this harkens back to what I was saying with really setting in something concrete at the beginning of the year. So have a more general idea about when you are doing what offers and or themes. So if you're in e-commerce, Black Friday, Christmas, that's going to be these important times for you. You'll have this general sense of when you're going to do certain things. Service-based, it could be similar times when you know that it's more likely that things will be more appealing to your audience and when less. You also, side note, might have holidays planned. You might have to work around school holidays and different things like that as well. So know when you are doing things roughly and or some themes and have some general topic ideas that you can talk about in the lead up to those offers. So this will help you know when you need to be in that engagement, nurturing, helping mode and list building mode versus when you are transitioning to more sales focused messaging. We need to be doing both. And if we don't spend that time with that engagement and that helping and making sure we reiterate those basics, then when we get to sales mode, it's going to be a lot harder. So while we don't want a very strict schedule to know each week's email, we need to know roughly what's happening in what month. So I love to just have like a sheet of paper with all 12 months listed and have a general, identify what I'm going to be selling or offering during any particular time, if there's particular themes that I want to work with, and if I need to be focused on engagement or helping, etc. during that time. So I've just got this idea. Next, don't plan every single piece of email content, because what you plan for June, July, if you put ideas for that then you'll probably be looking at it going, when you get to that time, you might not love it anymore, or it doesn't create space for things that are happening in your industry or topics and ideas that come up. Instead, going back to the previous step, you just need to know, okay, I need to be in engagement mode, so I want to be sending content that is engaging. Or I'm leading up to sales, so I need to start planting the seeds. That's what you need to know. So here I recommend that you do, though, have a bank of ideas. We don't want to have nothing in place. So this could be a combination of what works. So you've already identified the topics, the themes, the basics, the essentials that people want to work with. You also know when you are offering different things. So we're already tying those together, and then we want to develop a bank of ideas. So you could, yes, still put 4, 5, 6 email ideas under each month, but they're not like locked in. They're just there so that you have some reference points, but it's not set in concrete, if that makes sense. The next don't is don't treat email as independent. Please do align it with the rest of your business, marketing, and content strategy. So I've already spoken about looking at your goals. I've already spoken about identifying when you're offering what in your business. But we also want to make sure email's not living on an island. So we want to be sharing your message in many different ways. So if you are coming up with content ideas for your emails, or you're coming up with content for ideas for your blog or your videos or your podcast or for social media, send them to both places. Use them in both places. So that bank of ideas that I just spoke about, they can be also blogs or podcasts, etc. So ensure, though, that all of these channels, all of these mediums, your blogs, your videos, your social media, that they all point to your email list, at least at some stage. So your blog post should have a join my list if it's not in direct sales mode. So your social media posts should have link in bio for different things. Ensure that they tie in. But also we want to make sure that your email list, so your regular emails, point to those channels as well. So what we are doing is building this network, this big, what I call the amplified marketing method. You're putting everything together so that it all is aligned, sharing the same message, and that you are leveraging that content and that time so you aren't repurposing and creating a million things for a million different channels. The next don't is don't get overly optimistic. Now, the temptation here is to go, right, this is the year I am going to send an email every single week. Or this is the year that I am going to set up all of my automations, etc. Yes, if you are already emailing fortnightly or you already have a lot of great foundations in place, then going, okay, emailing once a week is great. But if you're going from nothing and you're saying, okay, now I'm just going to start to go twice a week, it is just not going to happen. So I do recommend that you stretch yourself. I do recommend that you go beyond what you're currently doing because that's how you're going to reach your goals. But don't go ahead and overcommit yourself. Instead, choose something realistic but stretchy. So at this time, I do want you to set a goal as how often you want to be sending emails and what projects you want to work on. More on that in a moment. But I don't want you to go from 0 to 100 like overnight. It will take time. And because, if you do that, you're just going to burn out fast, or you'll get really excited and then you'll confuse your subscribers because you'll be inconsistent. So just be realistic, pace yourself. You have got this. The next don't is don't schedule in every single email marketing project. Now, I have a lot of ideas, and if you have been in my world a while, or if you've just looked through the back catalogue of podcast episodes, you'll know there are a lot of email marketing strategies and projects you could be implementing. So when I'm talking about projects, I could be talking about fixing, your email designs, or adding in some automations, or doing some segmenting, or fixing some deliverability, workshopping some subject lines, creating some onboarding or integrating some systems. There's lots of different things you could be doing. I don't want you to schedule every single one of them in. The reason being is because this is a little bit of a how long is a piece of string situation. Instead, I want you to create a priority list and work through that. So choose your top priorities and start from the top. Allocate time. Yes, each month where you'll be working on these priorities. Create the content, build the automation, add the integrations, and let the data be your guide as to if you still need to stay focused on this, if you still need to do more testing and changes, etc., or if you can move on to the next priority, or you move on to the next priority, but know you have to revisit that in a month to make sure it is still working. You will constantly be learning about what is working, what isn't, and you may need to spend longer on something than you had intended or not. The other thing is, if we try to schedule in every single marketing project, sometimes we end up jumping from one to the other and we're just working across multiple things instead of focusing on just one or two priorities at a time where you are not achieving anything. Now, that leads me to the next one, which is don't go too fancy too fast. Instead, I want you to ensure you have all the essentials in place first and then add the layers. So maybe you have your welcome series as an email marketing project that you want to work in. You've identified that as your top priority for the year. Now, if you do not also have something that's sent post-purchase or post-booking, or you don't have any way for someone to sign up to your list effectively, or if you aren't sending regular emails, I do not want you to spend months working on your welcome series to make sure it's got the most beautiful design, that you've got 5 different parts, that you're segmenting your audience. Yes, these are great ideas and strategies you might want to put in place, but it's a waste of time if you don't have the essentials. So this is what I teach in my 5 email experiences framework. So under each of the 5 experiences, the welcome being one of them, I have 3 levels. And the basic level is just get your first welcome email in place. So we want to make sure that we've got at least the essentials in place, level 1, across all 5, before we go deeper into level 2, which is where we're adding in extra emails, extra layers, extra messaging, etc. Or level 3, where you are adding in the segmenting and the what if scenarios. So please, when you're going through these projects, think about, okay, what's the essentials I need in place first? What is the minimum viable to get it live? And then what is in place. So don't go, okay, I'm going to set, and when you're planning these email marketing projects and when you're giving that priority list, don't say, I am going to create, the most epic welcome series ever. Go, I am going to get my first 3 emails, and then I'm going to go to something else, and then I'll come back around once I've got all those essentials in place. And the final don't is don't get distracted by shiny objects. So this isn't so much to do with the planning process, although things can come up at this time of year when people are promoting all these things. But we do want to take advantage of opportunities. So through the year, I want you to be looking at the data on a regular basis. So I mentioned this, we do this at every year, and at least every quarter, have a look at the data. And then you go ahead and compare this to your priority list. Like, are you going through your priorities in order? And if an opportunity comes up that helps with your priority list, that helps specifically with your goals, then take advantage. But there's no point getting excited by some new list growth strategy or participating in some bundle or summit or investing in ads if you don't have any emails following up or selling after them. Or if you do have emails following up and selling, but no one's converting. So we need to look at these priorities, and we need to make sure that if we are going to find a shiny object, that it is an opportunity that reinforces those goals, that fills a gap that we have already identified, and then we have that space. So this isn't about, with your priority list, that you are locked in. It just means that you have that space to create. Okay, so quick recap. When it comes to planning, I don't want you to go ahead and have every single thing in place. Instead, have a big picture plan for the year where you have your goals, where you have identified gaps, where you know your opportunities, where you have your ideas, and you have set priorities. So you have a priority list. Basically, as a result of this process, I want you to have one document, which is each month, which lists out each month. It has what offers, what your themes are, and what sort of approach you want to take with your email. And then you'll have your priority list of projects that you will be working on. That's it. And then you'll get to your quarterly process where you will go more specific into those sales themes and projects, as well as looking at numbers. And then each month, that's when you'll get really specific with the email topics and when you are going to be working on what and actually physically putting it into your calendar. Hopefully you have found that helpful and you are taking this as a bit of a breather. So a bit of permission that you can do some planning, that you can get excited about your email marketing, but you don't have to have every single detail in place. Now, if any of this resonates with you and if you do want help with this process to identify your priorities, to help you come up with ideas, to know what to focus on, then head to my website, yaelkeown.com, and look at the ways in which you can work with me. I'm more than happy to do strategy sessions to map all of this out. So head there and check that out, as well as a ton of other resources I have available to you. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'd love to hear from you about what you've enjoyed from this episode or what you want to know about in future episodes. Let me know over on Instagram. I'm at yaelkeown, all one word, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you for listening to Easy Email Marketing. It's an absolute honour that you chose to listen. If you love this episode, then it would mean the world to me if you could leave a review so that others can find this podcast and make their email marketing easy too. Finally, make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss a thing. Until next time, have an awesome day and make sure to keep showing up and serving in those inboxes.